What's up, gang? Today we're going to be talking about Geralt of Rivia in Soul Calibur 6. My favorite character in the game by far. I'm so happy with how he's been executed on. He looks amazing, he plays amazing, and his signs are an incredible part of his kit. And I want to talk about those today. So there's two ways to access Geralt's signs. So you can access them through strings, stuff like 1AA, where you get Ard. You can also access them through just raw A plus B and a direction. So when you use them in strings, they typically do not cost meter. We'll talk about when they do in a little bit. So like this doesn't cost any of your meter, but using them raw does. Cool. So typically they cost between 1 and 2 meters, and with the amount of meter gain you get from reversal edges, you probably shouldn't be lacking in meter and being able to use these abilities raw if you want. So let's talk about them. First is Ard. You get Ard in a string just for 1AA. Really easy. It's great for catching rolls in Ukemi. But it's unsafe on the second hit is unsafe if there's no if it's not counter, so the opponent can block, and yeah, just unsafe. You can also you can get Igni from 6BB, and then 6BB hold it. 6BB hold costs 1 meter, and it also puts them in a crumple state. This is basically this is one of the tools in your bread and butter ground game, which you're going to want to do is like 3-3 BB, then 6BB explosion, and then 6-6 BB. So nice little bit of damage, uses 1 bar of meter, and because meter gain is pretty okay, you're almost back to full meter when you're done. So that's really neat. Quen is an interesting one. Quen gives you a shield. You get it through 4KK. You get it also from 66A-B. So 66A looks like this. Hitting B will activate Quen. Now, if we're to just... There's 3 follow-ups after... while you're sort of in Quen when the shield is around you. So what you can do is you can do a horizontal strike that wall splats. It also is your main ring out tool for people who are crouching near corners, because this will catch them and knock them off. If you just let the move play out, it's a frame trap. If they try to do anything, they will get hit by that. So if there's no counter there, you don't get a combo, but you're still in favorable positioning. You can also have access to your break attack by hitting B. Boom. So that's great. If it actually hits, it lethal hits if they're soul charged. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of things you can use this for to close a distance safely, to just scare them because you're armored. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do there. So those are Geralt's signs from his strings. He can also do them raw by doing any directional input. So you get Ard for 2 meters, you get Ard for 2 meters for up in A plus B. Forward A plus B is raw Quen. Down is raw Igni. So Quen costs 1 meter. Igni costs 1 on activation. It costs 2 for the explosion that allows combo opportunities. You have to be a little closer to nail that. And then back A plus B is Irden, which creates an auto GI state. So let's talk about Ard real quick. Ard is really good, like super good. It is crazy fast. It's a get off me interrupt tool. It's basically unreactable. It's so dang fast. It costs 2 meters. It wall splats. That's probably its least exciting thing because you can't really... There's no move you can do really that'll capitalize off of the restand. You can throw it out after unsafe moves. So we were talking about this. If they use a slower, so if you do that, if you do 1AA and their punish game isn't on point, you can bop them with this afterwards. It's not as fast as anything else in the game. It's super fast and really really good, but their punish game it doesn't protect you from everything. It's not a solve all. Um, you can also use it to combo off of things like 4A on counter hit. So yeah, let me turn on counter. This is actually the only way to combo off of Geralt's only just frame. And it does a decent amount of damage. You lose sort of the positioning you get off of this, but you get some space and some nice damage. One of the other sort of dirty things, if somebody's pressing buttons a lot, you can actually hit them with Igni. So just as a, hey, don't press so many buttons. So that's a cool thing you can do. Quen is the exact same thing as in the strings. You just don't have to use any attacks to get into it. You have the same options, the same follow-ups. Oh, and I forgot to mention, after every Quen, you can also cancel Quen with up or down B plus K, which gets you a little pirouette. And you can throw them, you can do whatever you want out of that. Also, like I said, Quen, if you do end up hitting the break attack, the A plus B, but what is essentially the B follow-up, you will get a lethal hit, which is always amazing. Igni is just down A plus B. It is, like I said, it's 1 bar for activation, 2 bars for the explosion. Boom. So the explosion itself, and then from there you get another follow-up. You get the 6/6 BB follow-up if you're close enough. And they can't Ukemi out of that. We also have, whatchamacallit. Let's see. Oh, all this stuff does, so like this does chip damage, which is great. And then we also have Yrden, which is our auto GI. Now this is an awesome move. It is essentially like, I don't know, it just keeps people honest. If people are going crazy on you, you have a lot of defensive options in this game. You have Reversal Edge, you have GI, but Geralt has one more, which is Yrden. And this does a bunch of scaling, so it's not like the be-all, end-all of defensive options. You don't want to be throwing this out like crazy, plus it costs 1 meter. But there are some really neat combo opportunities that you can do out of it. And like I said, it's there to keep your opponents honest. And there you go, like damage. The other thing to think about is while the opponent is soul charged, there are a lot of other interesting things you can do. And just like the damage opens up like crazy after you're now. Most characters are going to want to come at you while they're soul charged. This is when they're most powerful. But it's also when Geralt is at his most powerful. He can do a lot of really neat stuff to enemies while they're soul charged. He actually gets more powerful while they are. So Yrden becomes more powerful. So if we're gonna do this again, you have access to things like some really powerful 4A combos on counter hit. So, gotta be a little closer. So that's one thing to note. You have to be fairly close for this to work. Guys like Astaroth's AA at max range, that's not gonna work. Stuff like that. So you can do this. So just very cool. Oh, and you know what? So we're going to have to go over Ard again very quickly. Now that we're finished with Yrden, Ard is also great because it has extended crumples. So if, let's say you're in a GI battle and you're GIing back and forth, and you need a move that's like slow, that'll throw off their GI timing. 4K is great, and it extends the crumple state of opponents on the ground. So stuff like this. See how he does that like extended crumple where that allows for combo opportunities. So if we were to do something like this, You only get one to extend it, but even so, it's a cool opportunity. And I actually really like doing that for. It's a nice chunk of damage, and nobody ever expects it. So the last bit of sign tech we're going to talk about is not the last, second to last is Armor Melter, which is forward, or what is it, 9944, or 9933, and A plus B. This costs 2 meters, and it is a unblockable, fairly quick for an unblockable, Igni Blast. This is essentially only available safely after a Yurden. That whole combo takes a bunch of meter and may not be worth it. It does some great damage, but again, maybe not so worth it, especially when you have other non-metered options, especially if you're saving it for Ard. The last bit is Vaulting Ard Hammer. Now this is a command grab. It does a ton of damage, and on lethal hit, while they're soul charged, it is a lethal hit, allowing for follow-ups. So this is a great trick. So after something like this, actually, what was there was a specific, oh yes, this is my specific setup for if they're not attacking, if I have the computer set to attack. If you're going to guard after the first hit, we'll just... Right? Stand normal. Something like that, where you get in close, you've got a little bit of frame advantage, your opponent is afraid to make a move, you get like a grip of damage off of this. Boom. Actually, I think the last thing I want to talk about is the spacing when using your signs. So 6AA is one of my favorite moves for catching opponents off guard and using signs. So if they're not using a move that has a ton of range, so like Nightmare will bop you out of a lot of stuff, Astaroth will also bop you out of a lot of things, but 4AA is a really interesting ability, or a really interesting attack that allows for sign usage when the opponent probably isn't expecting it. So stuff like this into Ard, stuff like this into Igni. Again, if your opponent has a longer weapon, you probably won't be able to pull off that Igni unless the opponent uses a move, or steps or does something like that, steps forward or backwards. But you want to be on the lookout for opportunities and moves like this that put you far away and allow you to execute signs in relative safety for maximum damage. And I think 4AA is a really good move to like think about when doing stuff like that. So especially against trigger happy opponents. So you could do this into Quen, and then for extra damage, as I already showed, you can do this into Ard, and you can also do it into Igni if you're lucky. So I hope this is helpful. Thinking about signs, thinking about how to use them in Geralt's game plan. And I'm hoping to get some more matches up in the relatively near future. We've got some friendly games going on at work. Super fun, playing against a lot of different people and characters. So hopefully I'm going to be getting better and being able to utilize these signs in a way that's more efficient, useful. But regardless, if you like this, let me know. And yeah, that's Geralt and signs. Thanks, gang. Later.